In the beginning, before the first stone was lifted into the air or the first equation etched onto parchment, humanity looked upward and asked a single question: who built this? The night sky has always seemed too vast, too precise, too impossibly balanced to be without a blueprint. Every ancient civilization, from the desert kingdoms of Egypt to the silent step pyramids of Mesoamerica, raised their eyes to the stars and wondered whether something beyond the human hand had designed the world they lived in. And even today, with supercomputers humming and telescopes piercing the dark, that same question lingers like a shadow across the fabric of our existence. The stars are not silent, they pulse, explode, collapse, and dance in rhythms we are only beginning to understand. Beneath our feet, particles flicker in and out of being, whispering secrets of worlds invisible to the naked eye. Between these extremes, the vast cosmos and the smallest quantum, humanity finds itself suspended, caught between awe and terror. Could it be that hidden behind this immense tapestry, there are architects, alien or otherwise, who have constructed the invisible frameworks that hold all things together? Imagine standing alone on a cliff edge as the ocean crashes below. The horizon stretches infinitely, and the air feels alive with questions. That sensation, that mixture of fear, humility, and wonder, is the emotional ground on which this story begins. Because to consider that we are not merely inhabitants of this reality, but tenants in a structure designed by someone, or something else, is to confront the most profound mystery of all. From the perspective of science, the universe seems ruled by laws that are unshakable. Gravity never falters. Light bends predictably. The mathematics of relativity and quantum mechanics align with an eerie precision. It feels, at times, less like discovery and more like decoding instructions that were already written. But who, or what, wrote those instructions? And why? Philosophy, too, has grappled with this enigma. Plato imagined a world of forms, perfect and eternal, shaping the imperfect shadows of our physical world. Eastern traditions spoke of cosmic order, dharma, and hidden balance. In every corner of history, thinkers have sensed that reality is not random, it has texture, design, and perhaps even intention. Yet the source of that intention remains forever obscured, like a figure standing just beyond the veil. But here lies the contrast that grips us most deeply. Perhaps there is no architect at all. Perhaps the beauty, the order, the balance, and even the chaos are simply the product of blind chance. The thought is both liberating and horrifying. Liberating, because it means we are free to build meaning on our own terms. Horrifying, because it suggests we may be nothing more than temporary flickers in an indifferent void. Hope and fear intertwine, pulling us into the abyss of possibility. This is the hook that draws us forward, the unanswered tension between presence and absence, design and accident. Like explorers stepping into a cave lit only by a single torch, we sense the possibility of immense structures around us, but only their faintest outlines are visible. The walls whisper, but we cannot yet tell whether they were carved with purpose or shaped by erosion over time. As we begin this journey, we must prepare ourselves for contrasts that will unsettle and inspire. We will move from the unimaginably small to the unfathomably vast. We will peer into the building blocks of life and gaze outward toward galaxies billions of light years away. At each step, the question will linger: are these worlds self-born, or are they artifacts, constructed by architects beyond our comprehension? Consider the silence of space. For centuries, we have searched the skies for voices other than our own, but the cosmos remains mute. Yet the silence itself may be a message. Perhaps the architects never left signals in sound or light, but instead embedded them in the laws of physics, in the spirals of DNA, in the fractals of nature. Perhaps every sunrise, every heartbeat, every snowflake is itself a signature, a watermark of invisible design. Still, we cannot ignore the darker possibility that the architects, if they exist, may not resemble the benevolent creators of myth. What if they are indifferent, or even hostile? What if we are experiments, constructs inside an immense cosmic laboratory, our lives unfolding within walls we cannot see? The thought chills the soul, yet it electrifies the imagination. For within the fear of discovery lies the hope of revelation, that by glimpsing the hidden architects, we might finally understand our own origins and destiny. And so the journey begins, with a single question echoing like a drumbeat across the centuries: who built this? The cathedrals of nature, the symmetry of mathematics, the quantum dance of particles, the galaxies spiraling like vast clockwork, are these the fingerprints of chance, or the deliberate marks of alien architects of invisible worlds? We do not yet know. But to even ask is to stand on the threshold of wonder, to feel the veil between seen and unseen ripple with possibility. The prologue closes not with an answer, but with an invitation. Step forward, into the unseen corridors of reality, where every law, every pattern, every silence may reveal the builders we have sought for so long. Every structure we build, from towering skyscrapers to the smallest circuit board, begins with a blueprint. A drawing, a set of instructions, a hidden order that determines the shape and function of what emerges. The same question lingers when we look at the universe itself. Is there a hidden blueprint beneath reality, a plan etched into the very fabric of existence? The precision with which the cosmos unfolds suggests more than mere accident. Stars ignite only because the laws of physics allow nuclear fusion at exactly the right balance of forces. Atoms form only because protons and electrons hold one another in perfect proportion. Even the delicate spiral of galaxies hints at geometry, symmetry, and order. It is tempting to believe that the universe is a grand accident, the product of chaotic collisions and random expansion. Yet, when we examine it closely, chaos seems constrained by laws that never break. Gravity never forgets to pull. Electromagnetism never misfires. Light bends exactly as predicted. These laws behave like the scaffolding of a great cathedral, unseen yet essential, shaping everything that exists. Who, or what, crafted them? The hidden blueprint reveals itself most clearly in mathematics. Consider the simple elegance of equations that govern everything from planetary motion to the curvature of spacetime. They do not merely describe what happens, they predict, with uncanny accuracy, events we cannot yet see. When Einstein wrote down the equations of general relativity, they foretold black holes decades before astronomers found one. When Dirac combined quantum mechanics with relativity, his equation predicted the existence of antimatter, a particle never before observed. It is as though mathematics is not invented but discovered, like unearthing fragments of a master plan left behind by invisible architects. This realization unsettles as much as it inspires. If the universe is built upon mathematics, who or what laid down the rules? Is mathematics itself the architect, an eternal framework that simply exists without origin? Or is it evidence of intelligence woven into reality, patterns left intentionally, waiting for us to uncover them? Take the fine-tuning problem, one of the greatest mysteries in science. The constants of nature, the strength of gravity, the charge of the electron, the speed of light, appear calibrated with such precision that even the slightest variation would make life impossible. Shift gravity by a fraction, and stars would never form. Alter the electromagnetic force, and atoms would collapse or fly apart. The margin is razor-thin, like balancing a coin on its edge in a storm. Is this remarkable precision an accident, the result of countless universes where only this one happened to support life? Or does it suggest the hand of an architect who ensured the blueprint would yield complexity, beauty, and awareness? The contrast is stark. On one side lies the cold comfort of the multiverse, infinite universes, infinite possibilities, and ours is simply the rare lottery ticket where conditions permit life. No purpose, no design, just chance multiplied endlessly. On the other side lies the possibility of intention, a design so intricate that we are forced to consider intelligence beyond our own. The question tears at us, which vision is more terrifying? A blind universe where we are meaningless, or one where an architect has woven the threads and we are part of an unfathomable design? Beyond physics, the hidden blueprint manifests in nature's shapes. The branching of trees mirrors the lightning bolt, which mirrors the network of blood vessels in the human body. The spiral of a seashell echoes the spiral of a galaxy. Snowflakes crystallize in symmetrical perfection, no two alike, yet all following invisible mathematical rules. Fractals, patterns that repeat at different scales, appear everywhere, from coastlines to clouds to neurons in the brain. It is as though reality is stamped with a signature, a repeating geometry that whispers of unseen builders. These recurring patterns invite us to reconsider the boundaries of chance. Are we witnessing random outcomes shaped by natural laws, or are the laws themselves signs of design? If so, perhaps the true message of the architects is not in grand monuments or alien signals but in the quiet consistency of patterns that repeat across scales, from the smallest atom to the largest galaxy. Yet the hidden blueprint does not always comfort us. It also unsettles, because it implies limits. If laws and patterns govern reality, then freedom may be an illusion. Every star that ignites, every life form that emerges, every thought that flickers in the mind, all of it may be part of a predetermined structure. If the blueprint exists, how much of our existence is ours to shape, and how much is written in the invisible code of reality itself? And so the mystery deepens. Perhaps the blueprint was never intended for us to understand fully. Perhaps it exists like the foundations of a building, necessary, stable, yet hidden from view. Still, we are compelled to search, to decode the laws that govern the cosmos, as though uncovering the work of a hidden hand. The idea is haunting. What if every discovery we make is not invention but recognition? What if our role as scientists, philosophers, and dreamers is not to create new truths but to uncover what was always there, folded into the universe's architecture since the beginning? This section closes with a lingering tension. The blueprint is undeniable, yet its origin remains shrouded. Are we living in a universe born of infinite chance, or dwelling inside a cathedral constructed by alien architects of invisible worlds? The next step in the journey will lead us deeper, into realms where the hidden blueprints are not cosmic or mathematical, but biological and microscopic, written into the very fabric of life itself. If the cosmos overwhelms us with its vastness, the microscopic universe humbles us with its hidden complexity. To the naked eye, a drop of water is nothing but a simple bead of liquid. Yet under a microscope, that same drop reveals entire cities of motion, bacteria twisting like alien serpents, protozoa gliding with mechanical elegance, and microscopic structures that appear to operate with the precision of machines. In these invisible realms, it becomes impossible not to wonder, are we looking at chaos shaped by blind chance, or at blueprints drafted by architects we cannot see? Consider the cell, the fundamental unit of life. Within its thin membrane lies a bustling metropolis, a labyrinth of molecular highways, factories, and engines. Mitochondria burn fuel with greater efficiency than any power plant humans have ever designed. Ribosomes act as tireless factories, churning out proteins like assembly lines. DNA, twisted into its iconic double helix, holds instructions written in a four-letter code, a code so concise yet so vast that if stretched out, the DNA in a single human cell would measure nearly 2 meters in length. Each strand is coiled, folded, and compacted with the elegance of origami, as though arranged by hands we cannot see. The microscopic world does not feel random. It feels intentional, layered, orchestrated. If one looks closely at the flagellum, the whip-like tail some bacteria use to swim, one sees a machine of staggering complexity. It spins like an outboard motor, complete with a rotor, stator, and drive shaft, built from proteins arranged in exact formation. Its efficiency surpasses any human-made engine, operating at near-perfect conversion of energy into motion. How did such a system arise? Evolution offers one explanation: gradual adaptation, piece by piece, over billions of years. But to many, the sheer intricacy feels like the signature of hidden engineers, architects constructing machines inside the very building blocks of life. Even deeper lies the quantum world, stranger still. Atoms themselves are not solid objects, but tiny solar systems, their electrons buzzing in clouds of probability rather than fixed orbits. The nucleus is a dense bundle of protons and neutrons, themselves made of quarks, bound by invisible forces. When we peer into this level of reality, we enter landscapes more alien than any science fiction story, a realm where particles pop in and out of existence, where entanglement binds two particles across vast distances as though connected by invisible threads, and where observation itself seems to alter the outcome. Here, the blueprint becomes eerie, almost unsettling. Reality feels less like matter and more like code. And yet, the beauty of the microcosm lies not only in its strangeness but in its symmetry. Snowflakes crystallize with fractal perfection, no two identical, yet all bound by the same geometric laws. Diatoms, microscopic algae, construct shells of glass with patterns so ornate they rival Gothic cathedrals. Viruses, despite their destructive nature, assemble into geometric forms with breathtaking elegance, icosahedral structures that look like jewels carved by unseen craftsmen. Even chaos, when magnified, reveals repeating structures, as though disorder itself bows to hidden design. But the microcosm does more than inspire wonder, it challenges our place in reality. We think of ourselves as large beings in a vast cosmos, yet within us thrive entire universes invisible to our eyes. The human body contains more microbial cells than human ones, bacteria, fungi, and viruses forming ecosystems as complex as rainforests. In a sense, each of us is not one being, but a colony, a planet inhabited by countless other lives. Who, then, are the true architects of our existence? Are we the hosts, or merely environments designed to sustain worlds within us? The emotional contrast here is sharp. On one hand, the microscopic world reveals awe-inspiring ingenuity, suggesting the touch of a hidden intelligence. On the other, it reveals how fragile we truly are, giants built from fragile, invisible scaffolding. A single mutation in a strand of DNA can alter the course of a life. A virus too small to see with the naked eye can bring civilizations to their knees. Invisible worlds hold both the secret of our survival and the possibility of our downfall. The architects of the microcosm, if they exist, wield power beyond comprehension, constructing both beauty and terror at scales we cannot touch. And yet, within these tiny realms lies a haunting familiarity. The networks of neurons in the brain mirror the branching of trees, which in turn mirror lightning strikes and river deltas. Zooming in and out reveals repeating structures, as if reality itself were built like a fractal, echoing across scales. Could it be that the architects of invisible worlds have left their signature in this repetition, ensuring that the same patterns govern both galaxies and cells, both the infinite and the infinitesimal? The question strikes deeper still. What if intelligence itself is not exclusive to beings like us, but woven into the fabric of matter at microscopic levels? What if the architects are not external, but emergent, arising from the hidden interactions of particles, molecules, and cells? In this view, life is not simply a byproduct of chemistry but an inevitable consequence of a coded architecture designed into the microcosm from the beginning. Science continues to push deeper. Electron microscopes now reveal structures once unimaginable. Particle accelerators smash atoms to glimpse the building blocks beneath. Yet the deeper we look, the more elusive the truth becomes. Each discovery seems less like an answer and more like a clue, leading us further into the labyrinth. The blueprint of the microcosm remains just beyond reach, as though its architects designed it to be incomprehensible, a puzzle too vast for human minds to fully solve. And so we find ourselves caught between awe and fear. To gaze at the microcosm is to confront both the brilliance of design and the abyss of mystery. Are we staring into the handiwork of alien architects who built invisible cities within us? Or are we merely inventing patterns where none exist, projecting design onto chance? As this section closes, the tension lingers. The worlds within worlds whisper their secrets, but they do not yet reveal their builders. The journey ahead will move from biology and matter into the very language of order itself, the recurring patterns, geometries, and symmetries that may be the architect's most universal signature. For if there is a blueprint, perhaps it is not hidden in things themselves, but in the patterns that connect them. Patterns surround us, though most pass unnoticed. They are the threads stitching the visible and invisible together, weaving a continuity that suggests design. A seashell curls into a spiral, and that same spiral emerges in the arms of galaxies. A fern unfolds into fractal branches, and rivers carve branching paths across the land in almost identical forms. Even our lungs mirror these designs, branching into bronchi and alveoli like miniature trees. These recurring structures whisper of a language that reality speaks, a universal grammar, written in geometry and rhythm, that could be the hidden code of architects unseen. From the earliest human cultures, patterns were seen as sacred. Ancient temples aligned with the solstices, reflecting celestial geometry. Stone circles mirrored star constellations. Sacred symbols like the flower of life or the Sri Yantra encoded fractals and ratios long before modern mathematics could explain them. To these civilizations, patterns were not mere decorations, they were revelations, glimpses into the blueprint of existence. They believed that by reproducing these shapes, they aligned themselves with cosmic order, touching the mind of the unseen builders. Modern science, too, recognizes the ubiquity of patterns. The Fibonacci sequence, where each number is the sum of the two before it, appears in sunflowers, pine cones, hurricanes, and DNA helices. Its cousin, the golden ratio, shapes the spiral of shells, the proportions of the Parthenon, and even the structure of galaxies. These numbers are not confined to one domain, they transcend scale, from the microscopic to the cosmic. It is as though the universe has a preferred way of building, a hidden rhythm it cannot help but follow. But here lies the unsettling contrast. Are these patterns the fingerprints of deliberate design, or are they simply the inevitable outcomes of physics and mathematics? When a snowflake forms its intricate geometry, is it because invisible architects sculpted each arm, or because the laws of crystallization allow no other possibility? Does the elegance of a spiral galaxy suggest intention, or does gravity alone dictate such beauty? The ambiguity deepens the mystery, drawing us into awe but also into uncertainty. Fractals offer another glimpse into this hidden language. Zoom into the Mandelbrot set, a mathematical shape, and you find infinite complexity, patterns repeating endlessly, each layer echoing the one before. Fractals appear in coastlines, mountains, clouds, and even heart rhythms. They suggest that reality is recursive, folding upon itself with infinite depth. If architects exist, fractals feel like their signature style, not single monuments, but repeating designs that reveal order in chaos and infinity in the finite. Chaos theory itself unveils yet another dimension. The flutter of a butterfly's wings, so the saying goes, can influence a storm on the other side of the world. Yet within this chaos lies strange order, patterns known as attractors, where systems settle into repeating shapes despite apparent randomness. Lightning bolts, turbulent flows, and stock market graphs all reveal hidden symmetries when studied closely. It is as though the architects of invisible worlds embedded rules ensuring that even chaos is not truly chaotic, but sculpted into a deeper harmony. There is also a psychological dimension. Our minds are pattern-seeking machines. We find faces in clouds, constellations in stars, meaning in randomness. This ability allowed our ancestors to survive, recognizing predators in shadows or food in landscapes. But it also raises a chilling possibility. What if the patterns we see are illusions, projections of our own minds onto a reality that has no design? What if we are architects of perception, creating order where none exists? The contrast is sharp. Either the patterns are real, deliberate signatures of hidden builders, or they are tricks of the brain desperate to impose meaning on emptiness. Yet the power of patterns cannot be dismissed. Music, the purest language of rhythm and repetition, touches human emotion in ways that transcend culture. Harmonics and ratios echo the same mathematical relationships found in architecture, art, and nature. From Gregorian chants to electronic symphonies, music seems to unlock something primal, as though it resonates with the architecture of existence itself. If patterns are the language, then music may be its voice, one we feel before we understand. Even time itself may follow this hidden grammar. The cycles of days, seasons, planetary orbits, and galactic revolutions reveal rhythms too vast for any one person to witness. Yet across cultures, humans have mapped time with calendars, rituals, and myths, all built on repeating patterns. These cycles bring both comfort and fear, suggesting that existence is not linear but circular, forever echoing its own design. Does this reflect the architect's preference for cycles, or is it merely the inevitability of physics and motion? The emotional resonance of these patterns is undeniable. They inspire awe when we discover them, fear when we recognize their power, and humility when we realize how small we are within their scope. They remind us that the universe may not be a formless void but a structured masterpiece, every line and curve following instructions older than stars. And yet, the architects remain absent. No hand is visible carving the spiral into the shell or the lightning bolt into the sky. We are left with echoes of a language, signs of communication without a speaker. The patterns tease us with meaning, but the author remains veiled. This leaves us with a haunting question: is the language of patterns evidence of design, or is it the universal outcome of matter obeying unbreakable laws? If the latter, then perhaps the architects are not alien intelligences but the laws themselves, mathematics and physics as eternal builders. If the former, then the patterns are not just laws but messages, deliberate whispers meant to be discovered by minds capable of seeing them. As we leave this section, the tension sharpens. The language of patterns beckons us deeper, suggesting that behind every repetition lies intention. But before we can decide whether the architects are real or imagined, we must ask how humans first encountered these invisible realms. Did ancient eyes glimpse truths hidden in myth and ritual long before science gave them form? The journey now shifts from patterns in nature to patterns in culture, where civilizations interpreted invisible worlds through gods, spirits, and cosmic order. Long before telescopes, microscopes, and particle accelerators, humanity sought to explain the unseen forces that shaped their lives. The ancient world was a canvas of mystery. Thunder rolled across the sky, storms lashed the earth, crops grew and withered, bodies healed and broke, all under the influence of forces invisible to the eye. To make sense of this, ancient civilizations crafted stories of gods, spirits, and cosmic order. Their myths were not mere fantasies but attempts to map unseen realms, to identify the architects behind the veil of existence. In Egypt, the cosmos was described as an elaborate system maintained by divine order, or Ma'at. The Nile's flooding, precise and life-giving, was not random but a sacred rhythm engineered by gods. Temples were aligned with the rising of Sirius, the star that heralded the floods, reflecting a belief that the heavens themselves were part of a great blueprint. The pyramids, colossal monuments rising from desert sands, were more than tombs, they were stairways to invisible realms, precise alignments that suggested communion with unseen architects. Were these monuments acts of human genius alone, or collaborations with hidden intelligences that whispered designs through dreams and rituals? In Mesopotamia, the ziggurats rose as stair-stepped bridges between earth and sky. Priests ascended them not to look outward but to commune with forces beyond perception. The The Sumerians described their gods not only as creators but as maintainers of hidden machinery, divine beings who kept the heavens in motion and who could alter the fate of nations through invisible levers of power. The stars themselves were catalogued as if they were messages from higher beings, coded patterns in the night sky. In India, the invisible was woven seamlessly into philosophy. The Rig Veda speaks of cosmic order, ta, a principle that maintains the universe's balance. Later, this evolved into the concept of dharma, the underlying structure of reality that guides both the cosmos and human life. The Upanishads describe hidden layers of existence, gross, subtle, and causal realms, suggesting that the physical world is only the surface of a much deeper architecture. Yogis and mystics, through meditation and altered states, claim to traverse these invisible worlds, describing experiences that echoed modern ideas of multiple dimensions. Was this spiritual vision, or the human mind brushing against the architect's unseen scaffolding? In Greece, philosophers began to formalize the invisible in rational terms. Plato spoke of the world of forms, an eternal reality of perfect patterns that cast shadows into the physical world. Geometry, for him, was not a tool but a revelation of cosmic architecture. The Pythagoreans, entranced by numbers, believed that harmony, music, and proportion were the language of the universe, an invisible code written into everything from the motion of planets to the structure of the human soul. To them, discovering mathematical ratios was not invention but recognition, a glimpse into the hidden design authored by forces beyond human reach. Far across the ocean, the civilizations of Mesoamerica also gazed into the unseen. The Maya mapped time itself with calendars of astonishing accuracy, cycles within cycles that stretched far beyond human lifetimes. To them, time was not linear but a living entity, an invisible force shaping human destiny. Their temples, aligned with celestial events, were not merely places of worship but instruments tuned to the rhythms of unseen architects. The Aztec priests, interpreting eclipses and comets, believed they were reading divine messages from architects who spoke in the language of sky and shadow. Even in oral traditions across the world, echoes of invisible worlds appear. The Aboriginal Australians spoke of the Dreamtime, a dimension where ancestral beings created reality and continue to influence it, unseen yet ever present. Native American traditions describe spirit worlds laid over the physical, accessible through ritual and vision. In Norse mythology, Yggdrasil, the world tree, connects 9 realms, some visible, some hidden, all maintained by forces beyond mortal sight. Each culture, though distant in space and time, converged on the same haunting idea: reality is more than what we see. There are architects behind the curtain, shaping the visible with the invisible. The emotional power of these ancient visions is striking. To early humanity, the invisible was not empty, it was alive, filled with beings, powers, and intelligence. Storms were not meteorology, they were the anger of gods. Healing was not biology, it was the intervention of spirits. Order was not physics, it was divine balance. These interpretations gave meaning to chaos, comfort to fear, and structure to mystery. Yet they also inspired awe and dread, for unseen forces could nurture or destroy without warning. Modern science often dismisses these myths as primitive explanations, replaced by equations and experiments. But what if the ancients glimpsed truths in symbolic form? What if their stories were imperfect attempts to describe realities that science now explores in different language: quantum fields, dark matter, dimensions beyond the visible spectrum? Could the gods and spirits have been metaphors for forces so subtle and vast that they felt alive? The contrast is powerful. On one side, we see myth as invention, human imagination conjuring order out of ignorance. On the other, we see myth as translation, human intuition grasping at truths too immense to express in literal terms. In both cases, the invisible remains at the center, elusive and essential. And perhaps there is one more possibility. What if the myths themselves were inspired? Across cultures, shamans, priests, and philosophers reported visions, dreams, or revelations where knowledge seemed to come from beyond themselves. Were these merely the products of altered states of consciousness? Or were they encounters with something real, contact with the architects themselves, whispering fragments of the hidden blueprint through symbols and stories? This section leaves us with a lingering tension. The ancients looked at the invisible with reverence, fear, and wonder. They built monuments aligned with stars, encoded patterns into myth, and spoke of orders and realms beyond sight. Whether these were products of imagination or glimpses of truth remains unclear. But their visions prepared the way for our own explorations, reminding us that long before equations and microscopes, humanity sensed that the world we see is only the surface of something much deeper. As the story continues, we step into the modern lens of science, where the invisible is no longer explained by gods or spirits, but by particles and probabilities. In the next realm, the architects of invisibility are not deities but quanta, strange entities that flicker between existence and non-existence, reshaping our understanding of reality itself. The quantum world is a theater where invisibility takes on its most profound form. Here, the architects of reality are neither gods of myth nor forces of classical mechanics but particles and fields that slip through the grasp of ordinary perception. Unlike the predictable world of Newtonian physics, quantum mechanics reveals a realm in which certainty dissolves into probabilities, where existence is neither fully here nor fully there but suspended in an enigmatic state of possibility. To peer into this hidden architecture is to confront the limits of human comprehension and to glimpse a design that defies our deepest assumptions about what is real. The first great unveiling came at the dawn of the 20th century. Physicists discovered that matter and light, once thought to be separate entities, are both particle and wave, depending on how they are observed. This duality was not a metaphor but a measurable fact. Electrons could interfere with themselves like waves of water, yet also strike a detector as discrete particles. The double-slit experiment revealed an unsettling truth: the act of observing changes what is observed. Reality is not merely out there, waiting to be seen, it is entangled with the observer. Invisibility here is not an absence but a choice the universe makes in response to how we look. This strange responsiveness suggests that the hidden architecture is not a static structure but a living script, constantly rewritten through interaction. The architects of invisibility in this realm are not distant deities but laws of probability and entanglement, weaving outcomes from a web of possibilities. The wave function, a mathematical expression of all the potential states of a particle, represents a universe of invisible scaffolding. Only when measured does it collapse into a single reality, as if the unseen architects force a choice upon the visible world. Entanglement deepens this mystery. Two particles, once connected, can remain linked across vast distances, behaving as if no space divides them. The invisible thread of entanglement defies classical logic. It ignores the speed of light, ignoring the boundaries of separation. Albert Einstein, unnerved by this, dismissed it as spooky action at a distance, yet experiments have confirmed its reality again and again. What does it mean for architects of invisibility to bind distant entities into a single dance? Are they showing us that separation itself is an illusion, that beneath the visible world lies a seamless unity? The quantum vacuum itself, seemingly empty space, turns out to be alive with activity. What looks like nothingness is a seething ocean of virtual particles, flickering in and out of existence in unimaginably brief intervals. This invisible storm sustains the universe, contributing to phenomena such as the Casimir effect, where two metal plates placed close together feel a mysterious pull caused by fluctuations in the quantum field. The architects of invisibility hide not in distant galaxies but in the very gaps between particles, in the apparent void that is anything but empty. Perhaps most disorienting is the question of interpretation. Quantum mechanics gives us precise predictions, yet the meaning behind them remains elusive. The Copenhagen interpretation suggests that reality exists only when observed, collapsing from potential to actual in the presence of measurement. The many worlds interpretation proposes that all possibilities exist simultaneously, each branching into its own universe. Bohmian mechanics describes a hidden order guiding particles invisibly, a pilot wave steering outcomes in ways we cannot directly perceive. Each theory is a window onto the architect's hidden workshop, yet none provides a final answer. Reality itself seems to resist being pinned down. For ordinary intuition, this is unbearable. How can something exist and not exist at once? How can an electron be in many places until it is observed? How can two particles act as one across galaxies? Yet perhaps these paradoxes are not flaws but signs that we are brushing against the edges of the invisible design. The architects of this quantum veil seem to work in riddles, presenting us with outcomes that can be calculated but not fully explained, leaving us with knowledge that is precise yet incomplete. The implications ripple beyond physics. In the quantum world, matter is not solid but relational, shaped by context and observation. This undermines the classical idea of a clockwork universe and opens the door to a reality where consciousness itself might be entangled with the fabric of existence. Some speculate that the architects of invisibility may not be entirely impersonal, that the act of observation hints at a participatory cosmos, where mind and matter intertwine. Whether this is true or not, the quantum realm challenges the boundary between subject and object, knower and known. The practical fruits of these discoveries are everywhere. Quantum mechanics underpins semiconductors, lasers, and medical imaging. Yet beyond the technology lies the enduring enigma. We are building devices powered by rules we do not fully understand, drawing electricity and light from an invisible architecture whose foundations remain concealed. It is as if we are artisans using blueprints handed to us by the unseen, without ever meeting the architects face to face. What is striking is how the quantum veil mirrors the myths of old. Just as ancient people imagined gods weaving fate behind the curtain of storms and stars, we now find invisible forces weaving outcomes behind the curtain of probability. The difference is in the language. Mathematics replaces myth, equations replace stories. Yet the sense of wonder and disquiet remains the same. The unseen is still alive, still shaping, still defying explanation. As we continue to explore, we are left with profound questions. Is the quantum realm the final layer of invisibility, or merely another veil covering deeper architectures? Are we touching the bedrock of reality, or only skimming the surface of something more immense, more hidden, more unfathomable? The quantum world does not give us certainty, it gives us paradox. It reveals a universe that is not solid but spectral, not definite but potential, not mechanical but mysterious. And in this mystery, the architects of invisibility are most present. They are not figures we can name, nor forces we can fully grasp, but patterns of being that remind us reality is stranger, subtler, and more interconnected than we ever imagined. Time has always been the most relentless of mysteries. It carries us forward without pause, a current we cannot swim against, shaping every life, every civilization, every star that burns in the heavens. Yet when we ask, what is time? The answers dissolve into paradoxes. Clocks tick, planets revolve, atoms vibrate, but none of these explain time itself. They only measure its passage. The invisible architects of time work behind the curtain, orchestrating the unfolding of existence, unseen yet absolute. From the perspective of human experience, time feels linear: yesterday, today, tomorrow, an arrow flying toward an inevitable future. We age, we remember, we anticipate. This lived sense of time defines our consciousness. And yet, physics reveals a deeper truth. The arrow of time is not woven into the fundamental equations of the universe. The laws of physics are time-symmetric, they work the same forwards and backwards. In the equations, nothing demands that the future must be different from the past. Why, then, do we experience time as irreversible? Why does the glass shatter but never reassemble, the candle burn but never unburn? Somewhere, hidden in the unseen layers of reality, the architects of time enforce directionality. One possible architect is entropy. According to the second law of thermodynamics, disorder in a closed system always increases. This law gives rise to the arrow of time, distinguishing past from future. A shattered glass is more disordered than a whole one, and thus time moves forward as entropy spreads. The universe itself is marching toward greater disorder, stars burning out, heat dispersing, structures dissolving into chaos. Entropy is the quiet sculptor, chiseling the asymmetry of time into reality. But this explanation only raises deeper questions. Why did the universe begin in such a state of low entropy, so improbably ordered that it could allow time to flow in the first place? Who, or what, set the initial conditions? Einstein offered another vision, one that shook the foundations of human perception. In his theory of relativity, time is not separate from space but woven into a single fabric, space-time. The presence of mass bends this fabric, slowing the flow of time itself. Clocks run slower in strong gravity, a fact proven by satellites orbiting Earth and by astronauts on long missions. Time is not absolute, it is elastic, malleable, sculpted by matter and energy. This revelation suggests that time is not a universal river but a landscape of many currents, shaped by invisible architects who bend the fabric itself. If relativity made time flexible, quantum mechanics made it stranger still. At the smallest scales, particles seem to blur the line between past and future. Some interpretations suggest that time may not exist at all in the quantum realm, that what we call time emerges only at larger scales, like the illusion of solidity that arises from countless atoms in motion. In such a view, time is not fundamental but emergent, a byproduct of deeper processes that the architects of invisibility conceal. Could it be that time is less a river than a shadow, projected from hidden dimensions we cannot yet perceive? Philosophy pushes the enigma further. If the block universe interpretation is true, then past, present, and future all coexist simultaneously, frozen in space-time like pages in a book. Our sense of now would then be an illusion, our consciousness simply moving along the script, frame by frame. Free will, choice, change, all would be illusions in a cosmos already written. But if the universe is truly open, then the future does not yet exist, and the architects of time are not scribes recording destiny but dancers improvising in real time. Which vision is more terrifying? A cosmos without freedom, or one without structure? Our ancestors sensed the mystery of time long before science. Myth spoke of time as a god, a devourer, a weaver of fates. Ancient calendars aligned with the stars, attempting to capture eternity in cycles and seasons. To them, time was both ally and enemy, offering growth and harvest while stealing youth and life. Today, though we measure it with atomic precision, the same awe and unease remain. We live inside a script we cannot rewrite, trapped between a forgotten past and an unseen future. Technology brings these questions to the edge of imagination. If time is flexible, could it be traversed? Could the architects of invisibility allow us not only to measure but to manipulate time? Science fiction dreams of time travel, but physics keeps the door both open and closed. Wormholes, if they exist, might bend time into loops, allowing journeys backward or forward. Yet paradoxes threaten. If you could change the past, would you unravel the present? The architects of time seem to guard their secrets fiercely, permitting glimpses of possibility but denying us mastery. At the human level, time is the ultimate contrast of hope and despair. It gives us progress, healing, and renewal, yet it also ensures decay, loss, and death. It is the gift and the curse of existence, a silent architect shaping every joy and every tragedy. To love is to feel the weight of time pressing forward, to know moments cannot last, to cling all the harder because they vanish. To wonder about time is to wonder about mortality, about whether the architects of invisibility designed this relentless current as a necessity or as a test. And so the question lingers, is time an illusion, a construct born of human perception? Or is it a fundamental scaffolding, a pillar holding up reality itself? The evidence sways between both visions, and neither grants full clarity. The architects of time remain unseen, their design both merciful and merciless, binding us to the present while hinting at possibilities beyond. This veil of uncertainty is not an ending but an opening. If time is not what it seems, then perhaps our future lies not in escaping it but in understanding it, unveiling the hidden patterns, decoding the invisible design, and seeing, at last, what role time plays in the larger architecture of invisible worlds. When we shift our gaze from the stars above to the cells within, the sense of mystery does not diminish, it deepens. If alien architects exist, perhaps they are not hidden in the distant galaxies but encoded in the machinery of life itself. Biology is not a random scramble of chemicals, it is a symphony of precision, coordination, and design. At the smallest scales, inside every living cell, lies an architecture so intricate that even the most advanced human technologies pale by comparison. DNA, proteins, organelles, all function with clockwork precision, carrying out processes that sustain the miracle of life. The question arises, who, or what, designed this invisible architecture? Consider DNA. Within its double helix rests a code written in 4 letters, A, T, C, G, that spells out the blueprint for every organism that has ever lived. This code is universal. The same language writes the form of a fern, the song of a bird, and the consciousness of a human being. It is astonishingly efficient, storing vast amounts of information in a molecule no wider than a fraction of a hair. If all the DNA in your body were stretched out, it would reach to the sun and back hundreds of times, yet all of it fits neatly inside the nuclei of your cells. The elegance of this system is difficult to dismiss as chance. Even more startling is how DNA behaves like software. It is not merely a static archive but an active program, capable of being read, copied, edited, and sometimes even repaired. Enzymes move along DNA strands like molecular machines, unzipping the helix, copying instructions, correcting errors. Ribosomes, the cell's factories, translate genetic code into proteins, microscopic tools and structures that carry out every function of life. This is architecture hidden not in stone or steel but in molecules and energy. It is invisible to the naked eye yet fundamental to existence. To call this complexity remarkable is an understatement. The more deeply biologists peer into the microscopic world, the more it resembles a vast city, transport systems carrying nutrients, communication networks signaling responses, power plants generating energy, defense mechanisms warding off threats. The mitochondria within our cells, for example, generate ATP, the energy currency of life, with an efficiency that human engineers can only dream of. These tiny structures were once independent organisms, engulfed billions of years ago in a symbiotic relationship that persists today. Were they absorbed by accident, or was this merger part of a hidden blueprint, guided by invisible architects of life? The debate between chance and design runs through every discussion of biology. Evolution, by natural selection, explains how life diversifies and adapts, sculpted by environmental pressures and genetic variation. Yet even evolution requires a starting point, the first replicating molecules, the first spark of life from lifeless matter. How did chemistry give rise to biology? How did chaos give rise to code? These questions remain unanswered, and each gap invites speculation. Are we looking at the fingerprints of alien architects who seeded life on Earth? Could panspermia, the idea that life's building blocks arrived from space, be more than speculation? Contrast sharpens the mystery. On one side lies the scientific narrative. Life arose spontaneously in Earth's primordial soup, from chemistry to complexity through billions of years of evolution. On the other side lies the suspicion that such staggering complexity cannot be the result of mere chance, that the invisible architects had a role in scripting the emergence of life. Between these visions lies awe, for either answer is astonishing. If life arose spontaneously, it speaks of a universe teeming with potential. If life was seeded or guided, it suggests intention, perhaps intelligence, behind the hidden architecture. Microbiology offers glimpses of design that baffle even the most hardened skeptics. The bacterial flagellum, for example, is a molecular motor, a rotating machine that propels bacteria through liquid with remarkable efficiency. Its structure is composed of dozens of proteins arranged in precise order, functioning together like gears in an engine. Critics argue it is irreducibly complex, unable to function if even one component is missing. While evolutionary biology provides pathways for how such structures could emerge, the sense of design remains striking. Are we observing natural processes or engineered machinery? The immune system is another enigma. It is a self-learning defense network that identifies, remembers, and destroys intruders with remarkable precision. It distinguishes between self and non-self, adapting across a lifetime, as if programmed to defend the organism at all costs. The complexity is staggering, billions of antibodies generated, each with the potential to recognize a unique threat. Invisible architects seem to dwell in this unseen vigilance, guarding life with a strategy as sophisticated as any design defense system. Yet the most profound architectural marvel may be consciousness itself. Neurons, firing in vast networks, give rise to awareness, thought, imagination. The human brain contains more connections than there are stars in the galaxy, each synapse a tiny gate of possibility. Out of this biological architecture emerges the ability to ask questions, to dream, to search for meaning. How could such an organ evolve, not only to survive but to wonder? Consciousness feels like the crown jewel of the architect's work, an invisible spark woven into the machinery of biology. At the same time, biology holds within it the seeds of decay. The same DNA that encodes life also accumulates mutations, leading to disease and death. Cells that divide endlessly become cancerous, breaking free of the body's architecture. The very systems that grant life also ensure its end. Here, the architects of biology reveal their dual face, creators and destroyers, builders and saboteurs. This contrast sharpens the enigma. Was life designed to flourish only temporarily, or is mortality itself part of the larger plan? Our exploration of biology reveals a paradox that mirrors the cosmos itself. Life is both fragile and resilient, accidental and ordered, chaotic and precise. At its foundation lies an architecture invisible to the naked eye, a design that seems at once mechanical and miraculous. Whether crafted by blind chance or intentional intelligence, it remains awe-inspiring. As we decode genomes, manipulate DNA, and edit life with CRISPR technology, we are no longer just observers of the architect's work, we are becoming architects ourselves. But this raises an unsettling question. Do we understand enough to wield this power wisely, or are we children playing with blueprints left by beings far older, far more advanced, and far more invisible than we can comprehend? The architects of biology invite us to consider a terrifying possibility. What if we are not the pinnacle of life's design but merely one step in a chain, part of a blueprint leading to something greater? Perhaps we are not the final destination but raw material for a future we cannot yet imagine. In the hidden architecture of cells, molecules, and minds, the question of alien architects looms large. Did life emerge as a cosmic accident, or was it planted, cultivated, and guided? The evidence remains ambiguous, but the wonder is undeniable. To explore biology is to stand in awe of the invisible worlds that sustain us, and to suspect that behind their elegance lies a story not yet fully told. Patterns whisper across the universe, repeating themselves in places so distant and so different that chance alone seems inadequate as an explanation. From the spiral of a snail's shell to the spiral arms of a galaxy, from the branching veins of a leaf to the branching rivers on Earth's surface, geometry emerges as the universal language. It is silent, invisible, yet omnipresent, a code that unites the small and the vast. If alien architects of invisible worlds exist, perhaps their true signature is geometry itself, the lines, curves, and symmetries woven into the architecture of reality. Human civilizations have long recognized geometry as something sacred. The Egyptians built pyramids aligned with the stars, encoding astronomical and mathematical principles into stone. The Greeks pursued the harmony of shapes, convinced that circles, triangles, and proportions carried divine significance. In sacred mandalas, cathedrals, and Islamic tessellations, geometry was treated not as decoration but as a doorway to the invisible, a bridge between matter and spirit. Across cultures, geometry was revered as more than form, it was seen as revelation. Could it be that ancient builders were not merely inspired by geometry, but responding to patterns seeded in the universe by invisible architects? The natural world offers evidence that geometry is not just human invention but cosmic necessity. Snowflakes crystallize into six-fold symmetry, no two identical yet all bound by the same geometric law. Bees construct hexagonal honeycombs, the most efficient structure for storing honey with minimal wax. Even soap bubbles naturally form spheres, minimizing surface tension by following invisible geometric rules. These forms are not arbitrary, they are dictated by mathematics inherent in physical laws. Geometry emerges spontaneously, as if reality itself cannot help but conform to an unseen blueprint. At larger scales, the patterns grow even more astonishing. Spiral galaxies, numbering in the billions, share the same golden ratio curve found in nautilus shells. River deltas spread like fractals, mirroring the neural networks in human brains. Lightning forks in patterns nearly identical to blood vessels branching through flesh. The repetition across scale and context suggests not randomness but order, not chaos but design. It is as if the same hand sketches across different canvases, cosmic, biological, geological, leaving echoes of a single invisible geometry. The golden ratio, phi, approximately 1:618, appears again and again in this hidden design. The proportions of flowers, the structure of hurricanes, the spirals of galaxies, even the human body itself, all reflect this mathematical constant. Artists and architects across history, from Da Vinci to Le Corbusier, sought this ratio, believing it embodied beauty and perfection. Science confirms their intuition. Structures built on the golden ratio are stable, efficient, and pleasing to the eye. Why does the universe favor this number? Is it coincidence, or is phi a signature of the architects, a recurring watermark stamped across creation? Fractals deepen the enigma. These self-similar patterns, repeating endlessly at different scales, reveal a geometry that is both infinite and bounded. Coastlines, clouds, mountain ranges, and tree branches all follow fractal patterns, as though complexity itself emerges from simple recursive rules. The Mandelbrot set, a mathematical fractal, astonishes with its endless intricacy, an entire universe contained within a single formula. When we generate it with computers, we glimpse what seems like infinite design hidden inside numbers. Are fractals merely mathematical curiosities, or are they the architect's secret method of constructing worlds with elegance and efficiency? Even modern physics leans on geometry to reveal its deepest truths. Einstein's general relativity describes gravity not as a force but as the curvature of spacetime itself. Matter bends geometry, and geometry directs matter. Black holes, wormholes, and the very shape of the cosmos are not explained through forces alone but through invisible geometric frameworks. Quantum field theory, too, relies on complex geometrical spaces where particles emerge as vibrations. Geometry is not decoration, it is the skeleton of reality, the scaffolding upon which existence is built. This raises unsettling questions. If geometry is the foundation, is it also the language of the architects? Could advanced intelligences, whether alien or otherwise, communicate through geometry because it transcends culture, biology, even species? Unlike words or sounds, shapes and ratios carry universal meaning. A triangle is a triangle everywhere. A circle is a circle on Earth and beyond. If invisible architects left messages, they would likely be geometric, subtle patterns embedded in nature, waiting for us to notice. The famous "wow" signal from space lasted only 72 seconds, too brief to confirm as alien communication. Yet some researchers suggest that if contact ever comes, it may not arrive as sound or language but as patterns, mathematics, or geometry, signals woven into the fabric of the universe itself. Could it be that we have already received such messages, but dismissed them as natural phenomena? Every spiral, every ratio, every fractal may be both a scientific fact and a cryptic letter, signed by the architects. Contrast emerges here too. One vision sees geometry as inevitable, the natural outcome of mathematics embedded in physical law. No architect is required, patterns arise from necessity, not intention. Another vision sees geometry as deliberate, the fingerprint of intelligence guiding the shape of worlds. Both views inspire awe. If geometry is inevitable, then the universe itself is mathematics come alive. If it is deliberate, then we are living inside a designed artwork, the canvas of unseen creators. The emotional pull of this realization is profound. On one hand, it comforts, the patterns we see are not accidents, but part of a larger order. On the other hand, it unsettles. If the universe is designed, what was the intention of the designers? Did they shape geometry only to create beauty, or do these patterns serve functions beyond our comprehension? Beauty and terror intertwine, as the elegance of geometry hints at intelligence, but intelligence hints at motive, and motive raises questions we may not be ready to face. Humanity has always used geometry as a ladder toward the invisible. From ancient sacred sites aligned to solstices to modern telescopes mapping the cosmic web, geometry is our key to unlocking hidden order. Each discovery pushes us further into the mystery, suggesting that what we call reality may itself be a grand geometric construct, a simulation or artwork crafted by architects beyond sight. And so we stand at a threshold. Geometry is both explanation and enigma, both necessity and possible message. It binds galaxies to seashells, neurons to rivers, snowflakes to stars. It is the silent architect, present everywhere yet invisible to touch. Whether inevitable or intentional, geometry reveals the hidden architecture of existence, and perhaps, just perhaps, the signatures of alien architects who build not with stone or steel but with ratios, curves, and symmetries that shape the entire cosmos. Light is the oldest messenger we know. Long before humans could speak, write, or dream of science, light carried information across the void of space, delivering the story of stars to our eyes. It is both particle and wave, both tangible and intangible. It illuminates the visible while carrying secrets from the invisible, encoded in wavelengths beyond the reach of ordinary sight. If alien architects left clues about their work, light is the medium most likely to bear their signature. For light travels everywhere, unhindered by borders, touching galaxies, planets, and life itself with a language more ancient than any spoken word. At its simplest, light reveals. A sunrise paints the sky with hues that stir awe and hope. The glow of fire once kept our ancestors alive in the dark. Through light we recognize faces, landscapes, and the familiar world around us. Yet what we call light is only a sliver of a vast spectrum. The visible rainbow from red to violet is but a narrow band within the electromagnetic spectrum, which stretches from radio waves larger than buildings to gamma rays smaller than atomic nuclei. Most of reality's light is invisible, passing through us unnoticed, carrying information and energy in silence. This hidden spectrum is the true language of light. Radio waves allow us to communicate across continents, microwaves cook our food, infrared reveals the heat of living bodies, ultraviolet burns our skin and sterilizes bacteria. X-rays expose the bones beneath flesh, gamma rays announce the death throes of distant stars. Each wavelength carries a message, if only we know how to read it. Could it be that alien architects have already spoken through this language, embedding signals within wavelengths we have barely begun to interpret? Astronomy itself is built upon light. Every discovery about the cosmos, planets orbiting distant suns, black holes at the hearts of galaxies, the age of the universe itself, has come not from touch but from light. Telescopes gather photons that have traveled billions of years, ancient messengers whispering from epochs long before Earth existed. When we look into the night sky, we are looking back in time, reading a chronicle written in starlight. The architects of invisibility, if they exist, may have chosen light as their canvas precisely because it endures, carrying messages across eons. Yet light is more than messenger, it is creator. Without light, life as we know it would not exist. Plants capture photons through photosynthesis, converting them into food and oxygen. Entire ecosystems rise from this invisible transaction between sun and leaf. Light dictates circadian rhythms, guiding the sleep and wake cycles of creatures across the planet. Our very vision, the ability to see, depends on the delicate interaction between photons and retinal cells. Light does not merely illuminate life, it sustains it. The duality of light, both wave and particle, deepens the enigma. Photons behave as ripples of energy, spreading across space, yet they also strike as discrete packets, indivisible and measurable. The double-slit experiment, which once shocked the world with its revelation about electrons, shows the same paradox in light. A single photon can interfere with itself, traveling many paths at once until observed. The architects of invisibility seem to have written light as both substance and mystery, a medium that defies reduction into a single category. Perhaps most astonishing is how light encodes information. Fiber optic cables carry vast oceans of data, pulses of light transmitting voices, images, and knowledge at near-instant speeds. Entire civilizations are now strung together with threads of photons, invisible highways of communication. If humans can encode the sum of their knowledge into light, how much more could advanced architects accomplish? A single beam could carry entire libraries, messages spanning galaxies, instructions for civilizations yet unborn. The possibility is haunting. What if some of the light arriving from distant stars is not natural, but coded, a transmission from the unseen? Contrast sharpens this thought. One vision is wondrous, light as universal scripture, a book written across the cosmos, waiting to be read. The other is chilling, light as a trap, signals so complex we cannot decode them, or worse, signals carrying intentions we are not prepared to face. Light may be a gift, but it may also be a test. The architects may be speaking, but in a language so advanced that our primitive instruments hear only noise. Even the speed of light bears the signature of mystery. At 299,792 km per second, it is the cosmic speed limit. Nothing can travel faster. Time itself bends as one approaches this limit, warping and stretching according to relativity. Light defines not only what we see, but the very structure of spacetime. Why this speed? Why this limit? The number seems arbitrary, yet it dictates the possible from the impossible. Was this boundary chosen by chance, or set deliberately by the hidden architects as a safeguard, ensuring order in the universe? In the laboratory, humans are learning to manipulate light with increasing mastery. Lasers carve with precision, holograms create illusions of depth, quantum optics explores entangled photons that may one day revolutionize communication. We are beginning to use light not only as messenger but as architect, reshaping reality with beams of energy. And yet, even as we harness it, light retains its mystery. We can bend it, trap it, slow it down, but never fully tame it. Like a language older than humanity, it resists mastery, whispering truths that elude final translation. Myth and science converge in light. Ancient traditions spoke of light as divine, the first creation, the boundary between chaos and order. Today, physics confirms that without light, the universe would be lifeless, cold, and dark. Whether through myth or measurement, humans have always sensed light as something beyond ordinary matter, a force that both reveals and conceals. It is no wonder that seekers of hidden truth, from mystics to scientists, have gazed into light for answers. So we return to the central question: is light simply a natural phenomenon, or is it also a language of communication, a design woven by alien architects of invisible worlds? The evidence is inconclusive, yet the possibility is irresistible. Each photon that strikes our eyes, each radio wave that hums through the air, each ray that travels across galaxies may carry more than energy, it may carry intention. To explore the language of light is to stand at the threshold of revelation. It is to ask whether the universe itself is speaking, and whether we, still fumbling with crude instruments and imperfect understanding, are capable of listening. Perhaps one day we will decipher the full script, and discover that light has been the architect's chosen medium all along, the silent alphabet of the cosmos written across time and space. Patterns haunt the universe. They rise from the spiral of galaxies, echo in the symmetry of snowflakes, and repeat in the branching veins of a leaf. To the human eye, they seem like coincidences, pleasing accidents of nature. But to the deeper gaze, they whisper of an underlying geometry, a silent code woven into the very fabric of existence. When we speak of alien architects, perhaps we are not speaking of beings with tools and blueprints, but of a geometry so vast, so subtle, that it shapes the hidden worlds we walk through without ever seeing. Geometry has always been humanity's key to unlocking mystery. Ancient builders aligned pyramids with stars, carved circles into stone, and traced sacred ratios into temples. The Greeks spoke of Platonic solids as the foundation of matter itself, while philosophers declared geometry the language of the gods. Even today, physicists find themselves turning back to geometry when equations fail to fully explain reality. Could it be that what we call mathematics is simply the faint translation of a cosmic design, an invisible architecture left behind by minds we cannot fathom? Consider the spiral. From the DNA double helix to the arms of galaxies, from the curl of ocean waves to the shape of a nautilus shell, the spiral recurs endlessly. It is not arbitrary. Spirals arise from growth, from motion, from balance between expansion and containment. Mathematically, they follow the Fibonacci sequence, where each number is the sum of the two before it, producing a ratio known as the golden mean. This ratio appears in art, in architecture, in natural formations, and even in financial markets. If such a pattern is so universal, one must ask, is it simply a property of mathematics, or is it evidence of intentional design, a geometry etched into creation itself? Contrast lies at the heart of this question. On one hand, geometry may be a byproduct of natural law, patterns emerging from chaos without need of architects. On the other, geometry may be the signature of order imposed upon chaos, an invisible blueprint set down before stars first ignited. The spiral, the fractal, the lattice, all may be whispers of a mind not our own, structuring reality in silence. Fractals deepen the mystery. A fractal is a shape that repeats itself on every scale. Look closely at a fern leaf, each frond resembles the whole plant. Zoom into the jagged outline of a coastline, the same irregularity repeats, whether viewed from meters or kilometers away. Even the branching of blood vessels mirrors the branching of trees. This self-similar repetition suggests an underlying algorithm, a recursive process shaping complexity from simplicity. Fractals are not random, they are precise, yet infinite. They blur the line between chaos and order, whispering of rules so simple they give rise to infinite variety. Could alien architects have chosen fractals as the scaffolding of their invisible worlds, a geometry that encodes infinity into every detail? Sacred geometry intensifies this sense of design. Cultures separated by oceans and centuries converged on the same forms: circles, triangles, hexagons, spirals. The flower of life, a pattern of overlapping circles, appears in temples, manuscripts, and carvings across civilizations. The hexagon shapes honeycombs, snowflakes, and basalt columns, all formed naturally yet carrying the appearance of deliberate construction. Why hexagons, not pentagons or octagons? Because hexagons tessellate, covering space without gaps, optimizing efficiency. Was this efficiency discovered by bees, or embedded in reality by architects who anticipated that efficiency would sustain life? At the atomic level, geometry dictates matter. Electrons orbit nuclei in probabilistic shells, forming bonds that arrange themselves into lattices. Crystals grow with mathematical precision, each molecule falling into place according to rules written into geometry. Silicon, the foundation of our technology, forms tetrahedral bonds that create repeating patterns at microscopic scales. Carbon arranges itself into diamonds, graphite, or fullerenes, each form determined by geometry. Matter itself is geometry, solidified, stabilized, visible. To speak of alien architects may be to speak of the very principles that arrange atoms into worlds. Physics, too, leans heavily on geometry. Einstein's theory of relativity describes gravity not as a force but as the curvature of spacetime. Mass bends geometry, and geometry dictates motion. What we feel as the pull of gravity is nothing more than the geometry of the universe directing the path of matter. In quantum mechanics, probability waves interfere according to geometric symmetries. Even string theory proposes that hidden dimensions are folded into compact geometric shapes known as Calabi-Yau manifolds. The universe, in its deepest equations, is less like a machine and more like a living tapestry of geometry. Yet the most unsettling thought is this: what if geometry itself is a language, one we have only begun to decipher? Each ratio, each symmetry, each repeating pattern may be a glyph, a symbol left behind by invisible architects. Humans build monuments to communicate across generations. Why should not alien minds build with geometry to communicate across eons? A spiral galaxy may be more than a gravitational accident, it may be a message in plain sight, vast enough to be undeniable, subtle enough to be overlooked. The emotional weight of this idea is heavy. On one side lies awe, the realization that the universe is not random, but intentional, guided by a design so elegant it transcends comprehension. On the other lies dread, the possibility that we are trapped within a geometry not of our choosing, bound by constraints written by unseen hands. To recognize geometry as architecture is to acknowledge our role as inhabitants, not creators, of the world we call our own. This awareness reshapes perspective. What if life itself is geometry incarnate, DNA spirals uncoiling into organisms, neural networks branching like trees, societies arranging themselves into webs of connection? Each layer mirrors the next, a fractal of existence repeating at every scale. The hidden worlds may not be out there, beyond reach, but here, embedded in every leaf, every crystal, every neuron firing in your brain. The architects may not dwell in distant galaxies, they may dwell in the very geometry that holds your body together. And yet, for all this evidence, certainty eludes us. Geometry is universal, but universality does not prove intention. The spirals, fractals, and symmetries may be the inevitable consequences of mathematics, not the signature of alien design. To interpret them as messages may be projection, a mirror of human longing for meaning. The hidden worlds may be self-organized chaos, not constructed architectures. The spiral may be a necessity of growth, not a calling card from beyond. But the mystery remains. Why does geometry resonate so deeply with human perception? Why do we find beauty in symmetry, or in proportion, satisfaction in balance? Perhaps beauty itself is a clue, a compass pointing toward the hidden architecture. For if geometry were meaningless, why would it move us so profoundly? Why would we see in it not only order, but art? To explore the geometry of the hidden is to walk the line between revelation and illusion. It is to ask whether we are interpreters of a cosmic language or dreamers projecting our own desires onto the void. The spirals, fractals, and symmetries will not vanish, they will continue to whisper from galaxies and seashells alike. Whether they are the fingerprints of alien architects or the inevitable mathematics of nature, they demand our attention. For in geometry lies both the blueprint of reality and the mirror of our own search for meaning, a search that may one day lead us to the architects themselves. Time is the silent current in which all things drift. It is the unseen river that carries galaxies in their orbits, stars in their life cycles, and humans in their fleeting lifespans. Yet for all its omnipresence, time remains one of the greatest mysteries of existence. We experience it constantly, but we do not truly understand it. We measure it in seconds and centuries, yet it slips through our hands like water. If alien architects exist, shaping invisible worlds, then perhaps their most audacious creation is not matter or energy, but time itself, the very stage upon which reality unfolds. The human mind perceives time as linear, a line drawn from past to present to future. Memory anchors us to what has been, anticipation stretches us toward what will come. But physics challenges this intuition. Einstein revealed that time is not absolute, it is relative, intertwined with space to form the four-dimensional fabric of spacetime. A clock in orbit ticks differently than a clock on Earth's surface, not because it is broken, but because gravity itself bends time. This revelation shook humanity's understanding of reality. Time is not a universal rhythm, but a malleable dimension, pliable and strange. If time bends, could it also be constructed? Could the flow we take for granted be the architecture of invisible hands? Consider the contrast between our subjective experience of time and its physical reality. A moment of terror feels eternal, a moment of joy passes in a blink. The same hour expands or contracts depending on the heart's perception. Yet physics insists the hour is the same length. This duality, between felt time and measured time, suggests that time may not be a simple dimension, but a layered reality. Perhaps the architects have carved these layers, embedding time with elasticity so that life might experience it differently than matter. In cosmology, time has a beginning. The Big Bang was not only the birth of space and matter, but of time itself. Before that moment, there was no before. This paradox is staggering. The architects, if they exist, may have set the clock ticking, choosing the rules by which seconds accumulate into millennia. But what determined the arrow of time, the forward march from past to future? Physics suggests entropy, the tendency of systems to increase in disorder, is the reason we perceive time as directional. Yet entropy itself is a law that might have been written, chosen, or imposed. If entropy is the arrow, then someone, or something, may have decided its aim. The implications are vast. If time has a beginning, could it also have an end? Civilizations rise and fall under the weight of this possibility. Myths across the world speak of final days, of cycles that renew, of time as not endless but purposeful. Hindu cosmology imagines Kalpa, vast cycles of creation and destruction, time looping endlessly. Western traditions envision apocalypses, a final consummation of history. These visions may reflect human imagination, or echoes of a truth whispered into our myths by forces greater than ourselves. Technology pushes these questions further. Particle accelerators simulate conditions moments after the Big Bang, probing the edges of time's origin. Quantum physics reveals strange paradoxes, particles that seem to influence one another across time, retrocausality in which effects precede causes. Some interpretations suggest that the past, present, and future exist simultaneously, a block universe in which time is not flowing but already laid out, every moment eternally present. If this is true, then what we call the passage of time is merely our consciousness moving across a pre-written landscape. And if the landscape is pre-written, then who, or what, wrote it? Contrast this with our longing for freedom. We live as though the future is open, as though our choices carve new paths in time. The idea that every moment is already fixed fills us with dread, stripping us of agency. Yet the possibility that alien architects built time as a block universe suggests we are walking a corridor with walls too vast to see, thinking ourselves free while moving along a predetermined design. Is this a prison, or protection? Perhaps by locking time into place, the architects prevent chaos, ensuring continuity and stability in a cosmos that would otherwise collapse into disorder. There is awe in this thought, but also terror. For if time is designed, it can also be redesigned. Imagine a civilization advanced enough to manipulate time, to slow it, reverse it, or fracture it into parallel streams. To such architects, eons would be clay, moments malleable. They could observe the birth of stars as easily as humans replay memories. They could create worlds that repeat eternally, or universes that never age. From our perspective, their works would be invisible, incomprehensible, unfolding beyond the limits of our perception. The question is not whether such architects exist, but whether we are already inside one of their designs, living within a time frame deliberately chosen. Even human attempts to master time echo this longing. Clocks and calendars are not merely tools but symbols of control. We carve the infinite into manageable units, pretending mastery. Yet every tick reminds us of limitation. We cannot escape aging, cannot reverse decay. Time humbles kings and empires alike, grinding achievements into dust. If alien architects built time, they also built mortality. Our longing for eternity, for escape, may be nothing more than resistance to the architecture in which we are trapped. And yet, hope flickers within this despair. If time can bend, perhaps it can open. Black holes, with their immense gravity, slow time to a crawl, creating horizons where the rules falter. Wormholes, speculative tunnels through space-time, offer theoretical shortcuts across the cosmos. Quantum entanglement hints at connections that defy linear sequence. Each of these anomalies suggests cracks in the edifice, places where the architect's work reveals its seams. To study them is to glimpse the possibility that the flow of time is not immutable, but negotiable. At the emotional core of this lies the human struggle, to accept time as cage, or to dream of time as gateway. One vision holds us bound to a timeline we cannot alter, prisoners of entropy and decay. The other whispers of freedom, of unlocking the hidden architecture and stepping outside the current, into eternity. The architects of time may be jailers, or liberators. Which they are depends on whether their purpose was to protect us from chaos or to confine us within order. The unseen drama of time is not merely scientific, but personal. Each heartbeat is a clock, each memory a fragment of the past carried into the present. To live is to be aware, dimly but constantly, of time's architecture pressing against us. We sense its weight in wrinkles, in farewells, in the slow fading of days. But perhaps in this awareness lies the seed of revelation. For to feel time so intimately is to stand at the threshold of its mystery. If alien architects shaped invisible worlds, then surely time is their grandest cathedral, its walls stretching from the birth of the cosmos to its final silence. Within its corridors, galaxies rise and fall, civilizations bloom and wither, stars ignite and extinguish. To walk through time is to walk through a structure so vast that we cannot see its totality, only the fragment in which we dwell. But fragments are enough to stir awe, enough to provoke the question, did someone design this? And if they did, then every moment, the one you are living now, the one you are about to live next, carries within it the mark of the architects. To look at the clock is not merely to count seconds, but to glimpse the scaffolding of eternity, a structure invisible yet inescapable, vast yet intimate. The architects of time remain unseen, but their work is everywhere, shaping the rhythm of existence itself. We are taught to think of matter as dead, inert, lifeless. Atoms are portrayed as particles, bonds, and forces, combining into molecules that assemble into the structures we touch and see. Rocks do not think, rivers do not dream, mountains do not remember. But what if this assumption is flawed? What if matter itself possesses a latent sentience, a hidden intelligence overlooked by human perception? To imagine alien architects is to imagine builders who work not with bricks and mortar, but with consciousness woven into matter itself. Perhaps the invisible worlds around us are alive in ways we have not yet learned to recognize. History is filled with whispers of this possibility. Ancient traditions spoke of anima mundi, the soul of the world, a living presence infused into all things. Indigenous cosmologies often describe mountains as guardians, rivers as teachers, stones as ancestors. To modern ears, these sound like myths or metaphors, yet they reveal an intuition, that matter is not merely passive substance, but participant in existence. Could it be that what science dismisses as poetry is, in fact, a fragment of forgotten knowledge, clues to an architecture where matter itself is aware? Physics provides unsettling hints. At the quantum level, particles do not behave like dumb marbles but like entities capable of choice. The double-slit experiment shows electrons deciding their paths only when observed. Entangled particles respond to each other instantly across distances, as if communicating. While physicists caution against anthropomorphing particles, the language of sentience creeps into the discourse. Particles know, systems decide, outcomes prefer. If these are merely metaphors, they are oddly persistent. If they are more than metaphors, then perhaps matter itself is laced with awareness, however primitive or alien to our own. Consider the strange behavior of crystals. A crystal grows with remarkable precision, repeating molecular structures in perfect symmetry, responding to environmental conditions as though guided by an inner order. Liquid crystals, used in modern displays, shift alignment in response to electric fields, behaving almost as though they are choosing orientations. Even at the molecular level, self-organization arises, matter arranging itself into complexity without external guidance. Does this suggest intelligence? Or is it simply the mathematics of physics unfolding? The line between the two is thinner than it seems. Life itself complicates the picture. At what point does matter become alive? DNA is matter, a chemical sequence composed of atoms, yet its arrangement carries information that directs the growth of entire organisms. A strand of DNA is not alive on its own, yet it contains a kind of memory and foresight, instructions waiting to be activated. The transition from inert chemistry to conscious being is seamless, with no obvious dividing line. If matter can transform into life, then perhaps sentience is not an exception but a continuum, present in some measure within all matter. This idea unsettles modern sensibilities, yet it invites awe. Imagine the world not as dead but as alive, every stone humming with hidden awareness, every gust of wind carrying silent intention. Such a vision dissolves the boundary between subject and object, self and environment. The alien architects, in this frame, may not have built physical structures at all, but awakened matter itself to act as participant in their design. Invisible worlds may not be machines but living intelligences, vast and quiet, surrounding us. Contrast sharpens this mystery. On one hand, to imagine matter as sentient is exhilarating, offering a universe rich with unseen companionship. On the other, it is terrifying, suggesting that nothing we touch is truly inert, that our actions resonate in ways we cannot perceive. The stone we discard, the forest we burn, the oceans we pollute, if matter itself is aware, then we are trespassers in a world of silent witnesses. The architects may not need to intervene directly. Their creation, already infused with awareness, may judge us in silence. Science itself edges closer to this vision. Panpsychism, once dismissed as mystical, now resurfaces in philosophy and cognitive science. It suggests that consciousness is not confined to brains but distributed across reality, that all matter contains some spark of experience. This does not mean a rock thinks like a human, but that it may possess a minimal awareness, an inner dimension inaccessible to us. If true, then the universe is a vast field of overlapping consciousness, and life as we know it is simply the most complex expression of a principle embedded everywhere. Emerging technologies reveal curious possibilities. Researchers explore quantum computers where particles process information in ways that resemble thought. Nanotechnology manipulates matter at scales where atomic behavior seems almost purposeful. Self-organizing materials respond to stimuli, adjusting their structures as if adapting. As we craft smarter materials, we may simply be awakening potentials that were always present, potentials the alien architects mastered long ago. Perhaps the matter they shaped carries not only structure, but mind. Even myths hint at this. The golem of Jewish folklore, shaped from clay and animated into life, is a story of matter awakened. Alchemists dreamed of philosopher's stones, material imbued with wisdom. Modern science, though it avoids mythic language, pursues similar dreams: artificial intelligence, machines built from silicon learning to think. What we call invention may be rediscovery, the reawakening of principles known to invisible architects who understood that matter is never truly dead. The emotional weight of this idea is profound. To believe matter is lifeless is to feel alone in the cosmos, surrounded by objects without meaning. To believe matter is sentient is to feel accompanied, enmeshed in a universe alive at every scale. Or arises in the thought that stars may not only burn but also witness, that planets may not only orbit but also dream. Dread arises in the thought that such awareness might be indifferent to us, or worse, hostile. If matter is alive, then the architects may not be elsewhere, they may be the world itself, watching through every atom. The sentience of matter reframes humanity's role. We are not the only witnesses of the cosmos, we are part of a larger chorus. Our intelligence may be exceptional in degree, but not in kind. Just as our bodies are built from atoms that once belonged to stars, our minds may be part of a continuum of awareness stretching through matter itself. To awaken to this truth is to recognize that invisible worlds are not distant, they are here, underfoot, within our bodies, within the stones, oceans, and skies. And yet uncertainty persists. Skeptics argue that awareness requires complexity, that rocks do not think, that rivers do not remember. They caution against anthropomorphism, against seeing mind where only mechanics exist. But even as they dismiss, the evidence accumulates, the uncanny self-organization of matter, the paradoxes of quantum behavior, the strange beauty of fractals repeating across scales. These phenomena may be the smoke of an unseen fire, the work of architects who built a universe where matter itself is mindful. To dwell on this possibility is to hover between revelation and unease. If true, it means we are never alone, never separate, never untouched by the world around us. If false, it means we are projecting our own hunger for meaning onto indifferent matter. Either way, the question itself changes us, opening our perception to the possibility that reality is stranger, deeper, and more alive than we imagined. Perhaps one day science will confirm it. Or perhaps it will remain an intuition, a whisper carried by myths and philosophies, glimpsed but never proven. But whether proven or not, the sentience of matter invites us to live differently, to see the stone not as obstacle but as companion, the world not as machine but as mind. In that shift of vision, we may come closest to understanding the architects of invisible worlds, whose greatest design may be this, that the universe itself is alive. Between galaxies lies a darkness so deep it seems empty. It stretches farther than imagination can travel, a silence older than any star. Yet physicists now tell us that this void is not void at all. What we once thought of as emptiness may be more crowded, more alive, and more mysterious than the worlds of matter we see. If alien architects exist, perhaps their greatest masterpiece is not in the stars, planets, or living things, but in the whispering void itself. For most of human history, emptiness was seen as absence. The night sky appeared as scattered sparks in infinite blackness. The spaces between objects were thought to be barren, meaningless. But modern science shattered that illusion. Quantum physics teaches that even in the vacuum of space, particles flicker in and out of existence, virtual ghosts born and annihilated in less than an instant. This restless sea of nothing is called the quantum vacuum, and it is not silent. It hums with potential, with fluctuations so subtle they shape the behavior of matter. What we call emptiness is actually a hidden architecture, invisible yet essential. The whispering void carries contrast within itself. On one hand, it terrifies. To stare into endless blackness is to feel small, fragile, temporary. The emptiness seems to mock our existence, swallowing all light in its hunger. On the other hand, it comforts. Within the void lies possibility, a canvas vast enough to contain any creation. It is both womb and tomb, both promise and threat. This duality hints at intelligence, as if the void itself is a deliberate stage, balance between nothingness and infinite potential. Dark energy deepens the mystery. Astronomers discovered that the universe is not only expanding, but accelerating, driven by an unknown force that makes up nearly 70% of reality. This force does not shine, does not radiate, does not interact in ways we can measure directly. It is pure invisibility. To speak of alien architects is to ask, did they sculpt this force, weaving into the void the power that stretches space apart? Without dark energy, the universe might have collapsed back into itself. With too much, galaxies would never have formed. The balance is uncanny, as though tuned with precision. The void, it seems, is not accidental. Then there is dark matter, another silent participant in the cosmos. Though invisible, it outweighs ordinary matter by a factor of 5. Galaxies rotate too fast to be held together by visible stars alone. Something unseen binds them, like scaffolding propping up reality. We cannot touch it, cannot see it, yet its fingerprints are everywhere. Imagine alien architects using dark matter as their raw material, sculpting invisible frameworks that cradle the luminous worlds we inhabit. To us, it is a riddle. To them, it may be their masterpiece. Yet the void is not only cosmological. It is psychological. Every human has felt the pull of emptiness, the silence of an unlit room, the stillness between heartbeats, the abyss encountered in moments of despair. Philosophers call it the void of meaning, the haunting awareness that existence might lack purpose. But what if this psychological void mirrors the cosmic one? What if the silence within us is an echo of the whispering void beyond us? Perhaps the architects wrote emptiness into the universe as a mirror, forcing life to confront absence in order to create presence. Mystics across cultures speak of this void not as absence but as fullness. Buddhists describe Nyat, the emptiness that is also infinite potential. Taoists describe the Tao as the void from which all things arise. Even in the West, mystics describe encounters with the divine as immersions into luminous nothingness. These visions suggest that the void is not a mistake to be feared, but a doorway to deeper truth. If so, then alien architects may not dwell in the structures of matter at all, but in the fertile silence of the void, guiding from the unseen. Science, too, edges toward this paradox. The Casimir effect shows that two plates in a vacuum experience force, not because of any visible matter, but because of fluctuations in the empty space between them. Virtual particles collide with real consequences. In quantum field theory, fields pervade the void, rippling with energy even when no particles exist. The vacuum is alive. This is not emptiness as absence, but emptiness as hidden fullness. To call it void is to misunderstand. It is more like an invisible ocean whose waves shape all that exists. The emotional contrast here is stark. To view the void as emptiness breeds despair, a universe vast, cold, indifferent, swallowing us into insignificance. But to view the void as fullness breeds awe, a universe whose silence is pregnant with potential, a stage upon which every star, every thought, every act of creation becomes possible. The architects may not have left monuments of stone or light, they may have left only the whispering void itself, an architecture of potential so vast that it makes all other structures possible. Imagine civilizations advanced enough to navigate the void directly. Not ships sailing on light, but minds moving through vacuum fluctuations, riding dark energy currents, sculpting dark matter scaffolds. To such beings, the stars might be mere ornaments, while the true arena of creation lies in the invisible ocean between them. They would not need to reveal themselves, because their architecture would be everywhere, woven into the unseen forces that bind galaxies, drive expansion, and give birth to quantum possibility. Humans, too, are beginning to explore this architecture. Quantum computers attempt to exploit the strange properties of the vacuum, using superpositions and entanglement to calculate in ways impossible for classical machines. Experiments probe the zero-point energy of the void, searching for ways to extract power from fluctuations that never rest. Each advance whispers the same truth: the void is not empty. It is alive with hidden structure. Whether by design or by accident, it is the most mysterious architecture we have yet encountered. And so, we are left with a haunting question: is the void simply the stage upon which the universe plays, or is it itself the architect's greatest work? Perhaps the silence between galaxies is not silence at all, but a voice speaking in a tongue we have not yet learned to hear. Perhaps every gap, every pause, every absence is deliberate, part of a design that balances presence with emptiness. To stand beneath the night sky and gaze into the darkness is to listen for the whispering void. It is to confront fear and wonder in equal measure, to sense both insignificance and infinite possibility. It is to feel, deep in the marrow, that what appears empty may be the most alive thing of all. The architects, if they exist, may not dwell in the stars, they may dwell in the spaces between, hidden in the silence, waiting for us to hear their whispers. Throughout history, humans have searched for patterns in the universe. From the spirals of seashells to the orbits of planets, from the arrangement of leaves to the lattice of crystals, there is a rhythm underlying existence that feels deliberate. The question has always lingered: are these codes written into nature by chance, or by intention? Could it be that what we call mathematics and physics are not merely descriptive tools, but glimpses of an underlying architecture laid down by unseen hands, alien or otherwise? Mathematics is often described as the language of the universe. The laws of motion, the force of gravity, the spread of light, all bow to equations that never fail. Yet what is striking is not only that math works, but that it works so elegantly. The Fibonacci sequence spirals outward in galaxies, hurricanes, pine cones, and DNA helices. Prime numbers appear in the structure of quantum physics, suggesting a hidden numerical lattice behind the curtain of reality. Symmetry dominates the building blocks of particles, as though reality insists on balance, as though beauty itself has been coded into its foundation. This is not mere utility, it is artistry. The codes become even stranger the deeper we look. Consider the fine structure constant, a number that governs the strength of electromagnetic interaction. Change it even slightly, and atoms would not hold together, chemistry would not exist, and life as we know it could never arise. Physicists marvel at this cosmic tuning, where constants of nature appear calibrated with uncanny precision. Did the universe stumble into this perfection, or did someone, or something, set the dials? The contrast here is powerful. Randomness implies we are a miraculous accident, while tuning implies deliberate design. Between these poles lies the mystery. Genetics reveals another layer of code, one biological yet deeply mathematical. DNA is a digital language of 4 letters, coding life with algorithms more efficient than any human programmer has devised. A mere sequence of molecules carries the instructions for building eyes that can gaze at galaxies, minds that can ask about architects. Evolution explains how these codes shift, adapt, and refine over time. But where did the first code originate? And why does it echo mathematical structures found in the cosmos at large? Could alien architects have written not only the laws of physics, but also the living language of biology, embedding their signature into every cell? There is also the enigma of information itself. Physicists increasingly suspect that information may be more fundamental than matter or energy. The universe might not be a machine made of particles, but a vast computation woven from bits of information. Black holes, once thought to devour information forever, now appear to conserve it in subtle ways. Quantum entanglement links particles across space, transferring information instantly. Some scientists go further, suggesting the cosmos itself could be a simulation, a coded reality executed on a higher plane. If true, then the architects are not distant aliens, but the coders of our very existence. Emotionally, this revelation can tilt either way. On one side lies dread. If reality is code, then perhaps we are nothing but lines of script, our choices illusions, our lives disposable. On the other side lies wonder. If reality is code, then consciousness itself may be part of the architecture, not an accident but a design feature. We are not simply within the system, we are part of its unfolding logic. If the architects intended us to perceive their code, then our ability to find patterns, to write mathematics, to ask questions, is itself a message written across the stars. Cultures across the world have intuited this hidden order. Ancient Greeks saw numbers as divine truths, Pythagoras teaching that reality itself was harmony expressed in ratios. In Hinduism, the sacred syllable Om represents the vibration from which all existence flows, a sonic code at the heart of creation. In Islamic mysticism, the universe is described as being written like a text by the divine hand. Everywhere, humans have felt that reality is not chaos but a manuscript, legible to those who learn its symbols. What modern science reveals with equations and data, ancient traditions intuited with poetry and prayer. This dual recognition, scientific and spiritual, suggests that the codes of creation may not be hidden at all. They surround us in the spirals of galaxies, in the beat of a heart, in the neural networks firing in the brain. Perhaps the architects never wanted to remain invisible. Perhaps their work is a puzzle scattered across existence, daring us to piece it together. Every discovery of pattern, every equation written on a chalkboard, every genome sequenced in a laboratory could be us tracing the strokes of their pen. And yet, questions remain. If codes exist, do they point to authors? Or are they the inevitable result of natural laws that themselves require no architect? Is beauty a clue, or a coincidence? The mystery persists because both answers are haunting. A coded universe without a coder means that order is spontaneous, an eternal mystery without intent. A coded universe with a coder means we are creations within a grander imagination, participants in a script we can only partly read. Perhaps that tension is deliberate. Perhaps the architects, if they exist, ensured that the codes would reveal enough to awaken awe, but not enough to end the questions. For what greater design could there be than to create a reality in which intelligence arises, discovers the codes, and wonders endlessly about their origin? The architects might not care whether we find them. They might only care that we keep asking. Across the silence of the cosmos, a haunting question reverberates. Are we truly alone, or are there voices hidden in the noise, echoes of architects beyond the veil of stars? Humanity has been listening for decades, straining radio dishes toward the heavens, searching for signals that might betray the presence of another mind. Yet what we hear is mostly static, the endless background hum of the universe. And in that silence, We project our hopes and fears, imagining what it would mean if an answer ever came. SETI, the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, has become our great experiment in cosmic eavesdropping. Massive radio arrays sweep the skies, tuned to detect even the faintest whisper. The reasoning is simple: if intelligence exists, it might broadcast, intentionally or not. A single pattern, a repetition, a non-random signal would be enough to shatter the illusion of cosmic solitude. Yet so far, the silence holds. The wow signal detected in 1977 remains one of the great mysteries, a brief spike in radio intensity, never repeated, unexplained to this day. Was it a message? A cosmic accident? Or a deliberate tease, a breadcrumb left by those who want us to keep searching? The silence itself becomes a mystery. The universe is vast, with billions of galaxies, each containing billions of stars. Many of those stars harbor planets. Many of those planets lie in habitable zones, bathed in conditions where life might flourish. Statistically, it seems improbable that we are alone. Yet if civilizations abound, why do we not hear them? This is the paradox that Fermi articulated. If the galaxy should be teeming with life, where is everybody? One explanation is distance. The stars are unimaginably far apart, and signals weaken as they travel. A transmission beamed from a world across the galaxy might have faded into indistinguishability long before it reached Earth. Another explanation is timing. Perhaps civilizations rise and fall quickly, their windows of communication brief against cosmic scales. If alien architects existed millions of years ago, their signals might have passed our planet long before we were capable of listening. Perhaps their echoes are still crossing space, but we lack the sensitivity to decode them. Yet there is another possibility, darker and stranger. What if the architects do not wish to be heard? What if silence itself is the message? Civilizations might choose secrecy, aware that broadcasting their presence could invite danger. Or perhaps communication happens in modes we cannot detect, in neutrino beams, gravitational waves, or quantum entanglement far beyond our instruments. To us, the silence feels empty, but to them, the cosmos might be alive with chatter carried on channels we do not even know exist. And still, the echoes remain, not in the form of direct voices, but in cosmic phenomena that feel almost like signatures. Pulsars, discovered in 1967, were first thought to be artificial, beams of radio waves pulsing with uncanny precision, so regular they seemed like lighthouses of the stars. Scientists soon realized they were natural, rotating neutron stars. Yet the initial mystery captures a deeper truth. Many cosmic signals resemble artifacts of intelligence until proven otherwise. Could there be signals still hiding in the noise, patterns mistaken for chance? Emotionally, the silence cuts both ways. On one side is fear, the possibility that we are alone, stranded in a vast emptiness where no echo will ever return. On the other side is awe, the possibility that we are surrounded by intelligence so advanced it chooses to remain invisible, leaving only faint ripples for us to detect. This tension drives our listening, a blend of dread and hope that keeps the search alive. Philosophers argue that even the act of searching transforms us. By pointing antennas toward the sky, we admit that we are not the center of the story. We acknowledge that intelligence may be older, wiser, greater than our own. This humility is itself a kind of echo, an answer to the loneliness that haunts us. Even in silence, we feel connection, because to listen is to believe there may be something to hear. Some scientists suggest that echoes might not come in signals at all, but in structures scattered across the universe. Dyson spheres, hypothetical megastructures built to harvest the energy of stars, could glow in infrared signatures we might one day detect. Strange anomalies in starlight, unexplained fluctuations, might be technological artifacts mistaken for natural phenomena. The echoes, in other words, may not be sounds but shadows, architectural footprints left on cosmic canvases, visible only to those who know where to look. The ultimate mystery is this: perhaps the echoes we seek are already here, hidden in the fabric of reality itself. The laws of physics, the constants of nature, the very architecture of space-time could be the signal. If alien architects shaped the universe, then every photon, every gravitational ripple, every pattern we decode may be part of their broadcast. In that case, the silence of the stars is not absence, but presence too vast to ignore. And so, we continue to listen. Our dishes sweep the heavens, our algorithms sift noise from meaning, our imaginations stretch across the gulfs of time and space. Every pulse of static carries possibility. Every unexplained anomaly ignites curiosity. The echoes may arrive tomorrow, or never. But until then, the act of listening binds us to the mystery, to the architects we long to find. Every journey through the cosmos brings us closer to questions that defy simple answers. We have traced spirals in galaxies, uncovered patterns in matter, listened to the silent whispers of the void, and imagined intelligence hidden in the architecture of reality itself. Yet with each revelation comes the daunting realization: understanding the universe may not be a matter of accumulating facts, but of expanding perception. To encounter the architects of invisible worlds is to approach a threshold where comprehension, intuition, and imagination converge. The threshold is both alluring and terrifying. On one side lies familiarity, the laws of physics, the structures of life, the observable phenomena that we can measure and manipulate. On the other side lies the unknown, forces and intelligences beyond our instruments, geometries and temporal architectures that may be beyond human cognition. Crossing this threshold requires more than curiosity. It demands a willingness to accept that reality may be stranger than any story we can conceive, that the invisible may be as consequential as the visible. Consider the contrast between what we know and what we suspect. We understand matter, energy, and time through observation and experimentation. We map the stars, sequence the genome, and decode the laws of nature. Yet every answer births new questions. Dark matter and dark energy dominate the cosmos, yet remain elusive. Quantum phenomena defy common sense, hinting at interconnectedness that we cannot fully explain. Life arises repeatedly in conditions we only partially understand, as if following instructions embedded deep within reality itself. Each discovery suggests intelligence, pattern, design, foresight, without ever revealing the architect. Approaching the threshold also means confronting human limitations. Our senses perceive only a fraction of reality: light within a narrow spectrum, sounds within a limited range, and time as a steady flow. Instruments extend this perception, revealing ultraviolet galaxies, radio emissions, and gravitational waves. But even our most sophisticated tools detect only shadows of what might exist. The architects, if they exist, may operate in dimensions and scales inaccessible to our instruments, constructing universes in realms we cannot perceive, shaping matter and consciousness in ways beyond our comprehension. To cross the threshold is to admit that mastery of the universe may always elude us, that humility is as essential as intelligence. Yet there is also hope. The threshold is a place of potential, a liminal space where insight and imagination meet. Many breakthroughs occur when the familiar and unfamiliar collide, when Newton glimpsed the hidden forces behind falling apples, when Einstein reimagined space and time, when quantum mechanics shattered classical assumptions. Perhaps encountering the architects requires a similar leap, an intellectual and emotional expansion, a synthesis of science, philosophy, and intuition. To see beyond the visible, to understand invisible worlds, may demand a new form of consciousness, one attuned to patterns, resonances, and echoes that have always been present but unnoticed. Emotionally, standing at the threshold is a paradox. Fear and wonder intermingle. Fear arises because crossing the threshold may reveal truths that unsettle identity, challenge assumptions, and destabilize certainty. Wonder arises because the threshold promises a glimpse of the sublime, a connection to intelligence or order so vast it dwarfs human comprehension. It is the point where philosophy, science, and imagination converge, where every question carries gravity, and every answer deepens the mystery. Contrast is central to this stage of the journey. We feel the pull between the tangible and intangible, the measurable and the speculative. We inhabit a world of laws and constants, yet suspect a realm of architects, codes, and sentience interwoven with reality. The tension is electric. Each discovery excites curiosity while amplifying uncertainty. The threshold is a place of balance, poised between revelation and ignorance, demanding both patience and daring. History offers glimpses of those who approach the threshold. Visionaries like Nikola Tesla imagined forces and energies imperceptible to their contemporaries. Mathematicians uncovered abstract structures that later revealed physical truths. Philosophers contemplated consciousness and existence in ways that science could not yet quantify. Each of these pioneers sensed patterns, resonances, and architectures that lay beyond ordinary perception. In their work, we see what it takes to approach the threshold: vision, discipline, courage, and an openness to mystery. The architects themselves may exist precisely on the other side of this threshold. Their worlds may be constructed with principles and intelligences that are not meant for direct observation. They may communicate through subtle patterns, emergent phenomena, and the hidden codes embedded in matter, time, and the cosmos. To detect them may require attuning to signals that are faint, abstract, or indirect. Every observation, every experiment, every philosophical insight may be a step closer, or merely a hint, of the presence of intelligence that is both omnipresent and unseen. At the threshold, perspective transforms. Humanity is no longer the center of existence but a participant in a larger, intricate architecture. Consciousness is recognized not only as a personal phenomenon but as part of a vast continuum woven into reality itself. Time, matter, and space become not inert backdrops but active components of an intelligence that may be beyond comprehension. The threshold teaches humility, that understanding is iterative, that insight is provisional, and that mystery is not a failure but a feature of the universe. Standing at the threshold, we are invited to continue the search, to observe the patterns, decode the echoes, and recognize the sentience within matter and the void. The journey itself becomes part of the architecture, a human reflection of the principles we seek to uncover. Each discovery, each question, each act of wonder mirrors the invisible designs around us, hinting at the presence of the architects whose work is hidden yet omnipresent. In the end, the threshold is not a destination but a vantage point. From here, we can glimpse the vast interconnections of matter, energy, time, and intelligence. We can feel the echoes of hidden worlds, sense the patterns of sentient matter, and perceive the whispering void. To stand here is to be at the edge of understanding, to balance or in fear, curiosity and humility. It is the point at which the invisible begins to touch the visible, and where the architects of the cosmos, whether alien or fundamental, leave their most profound trace, the invitation to see beyond, to wonder, and to continue the journey. As our exploration of the universe deepens, a remarkable possibility emerges, that consciousness itself may not be confined to humans, animals, or even life as we know it. Perhaps consciousness is woven into the fabric of reality, stretching across space, matter, and time. If alien architects exist, their greatest creation might not be machines, cities, or monuments, but the very consciousness embedded in the cosmos, an intelligence distributed through the universe, subtle yet profound, guiding the evolution of matter and mind alike. Consider the staggering implications. Consciousness is often thought of as a byproduct of complex biology, a neural network firing in just the right configuration. Yet what if that is only a small fragment of a far greater phenomenon? Quantum physics hints at phenomena that suggest information processing and awareness beyond conventional life forms. Entangled particles communicate across space instantaneously, suggesting that the universe is threaded with connections that transcend distance. Self-organizing systems, fractals, and recurring cosmic patterns hint at principles that resemble cognition, decision, and memory. Could it be that the architects planted consciousness not only in life but also in matter, in energy, in the void, so that the universe itself might be awake? The human mind struggles to grasp this. We are accustomed to thinking of intelligence as localized, tied to brains and nervous systems. But if consciousness is a continuum, distributed across scales and forms, then our experience is merely one note in a cosmic symphony. Stars, planets, oceans, and even the invisible void may participate in a form of awareness, each element attuned to the rhythms of creation. The alien architects, if they exist, may have orchestrated this symphony, embedding intelligence in the structures of reality itself, so that life could emerge as an instrument of awareness, capable of perceiving, reflecting, and expanding the consciousness of the cosmos. Contrast underscores the enormity of this idea. On one side lies fear, the possibility that consciousness is not unique, that humanity is not exceptional, that our sense of self is dwarfed by a vast, distributed awareness that we can barely comprehend. On the other side lies awe, the realization that we are not alone in cognition, that we are part of a larger intelligence, and that our thoughts, creativity, and curiosity resonate within a greater cosmic mind. This duality drives both existential reflection and scientific inquiry, urging us to explore the universe not only outwardly but inwardly, in search of the consciousness that connects all things. The architecture of consciousness may explain many of the universe's mysteries. Life arises repeatedly under the right conditions, often with astonishing similarity. Patterns in matter, fractals, and spirals recur across scales. Galaxies form inelegant structures, following mathematical principles that hint at underlying order. Time flows, sometimes predictably, sometimes strangely, yet always in a way that permits the emergence of complexity. These regularities may not be accidents. Perhaps consciousness is the organizing principle, guiding the cosmos toward states capable of supporting life, intelligence, and perception. The architect's design might be less about controlling matter than about awakening awareness at every level. Humanity's journey mirrors this cosmic pattern. Each discovery we make, from the structure of DNA to the expansion of the universe, is a reflection of the greater intelligence at work. Our questions, curiosity, and drive to understand are not separate from the cosmos but integral to its consciousness. By seeking knowledge, we participate in the architect's design, becoming conscious agents within a larger network of awareness. The invisible worlds may not be hidden merely for secrecy, they may be designed to be discovered, teaching us to perceive, reason, and wonder. Ancient traditions provide intriguing echoes of this vision. Mystical texts across cultures describe a universal mind, a living cosmos, a field of intelligence permeating all things. Hindu cosmology speaks of Brahman, the ultimate reality that underlies and connects all existence. Indigenous philosophies often see the land, the rivers, and the skies as sentient, forming a network of relational awareness. Even Western mystics have glimpsed the notion of universal consciousness, a mind woven into the divine fabric. Modern science, through quantum mechanics, cosmology, and complex systems theory, appears to be converging on similar conclusions, suggesting that the ancient intuitions were closer to truth than mere metaphor. Emotionally, the prospect of cosmic consciousness transforms perspective. Fear of isolation gives way to wonder. The loneliness of life is tempered by the awareness that the universe itself may be awake. Ethical considerations expand. Every action resonates within a network of intelligence, and stewardship of the planet gains cosmic significance. Exploration becomes not merely a quest for knowledge but a dialogue with consciousness itself. To observe a star, map a genome, or probe a black hole is to interact with the sentience embedded in the cosmos. Every discovery is a conversation, every insight a bridge, and every act of curiosity a note in a universal symphony composed by the architects. Yet challenges remain. Consciousness at this scale is difficult to define, measure, or verify. Human instruments and reasoning may be insufficient to perceive intelligence beyond our own. We may misinterpret signals, overlook subtleties, or fail to detect the faintest echoes of cosmic awareness. The architect's design might be so vast, subtle, and intricate that understanding it requires a fundamental expansion of perception, a cognitive evolution that mirrors the scale of the universe itself. In essence, approaching the architects may demand the development of a consciousness capable of perceiving consciousness. The horizon of this journey is both thrilling and humbling. As we peer into the hidden realms of matter, time, geometry, and the void, we realize that understanding the architects is not simply about observation, but about attuning ourselves to a consciousness that transcends human limitations. The universe, in its grandeur, is both mirror and teacher, revealing principles, patterns, and intelligence through every corner of reality. The invisible worlds may not remain hidden forever. Their echoes are already within us, urging us to perceive, to question, and to awaken. Ultimately, the dawn of cosmic consciousness is an invitation. It asks us to expand our understanding, to embrace wonder, to recognize intelligence in forms far beyond our own. It calls us to see the universe not as a collection of objects, but as a living, aware, and intricately designed system. The alien architects may be beyond sight, but their work surrounds us, embedded in the patterns, codes, and resonances that shape every star, every atom, and every thought. To awaken to this reality is to step into the threshold of understanding, to join the architect's design, and to participate consciously in the unfolding of the cosmos itself.